Hi, this is your host. Today we'll be looking at documentary Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Kurzgesagt in a nutshell is an Austrian-German studio that has produced some of the most popular science videos on the planet. Their YouTube channel currently has over 20 million subscribers, and each of their videos gets tens of millions of views. So, what makes them so successful? Well, I think it can be broken down into three: fun, easy to understand, and accurate. They make science fun with quirky humor and by approaching topics from unusual angles. They make science easy to understand by avoiding technical jargon and using analogies and metaphors. And they make science accurate by bringing in experts and consulting with specialists for each episode. When I first heard about this documentary, I was really excited. I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn more about how one of my favorite studios operates. But while researching for this video, I found that there isn't much publicly available information about Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. And so this documentary is going to have to be a little different than my usual format. Instead of focusing on the creation process, which we don't know very much about, I wanted to focus on what goes into making a single Kurzgesagt video, because that is something we have a lot of information on. I reached out to the team at Kurzgesagt and asked if I could interview them for this video, but unfortunately, they were too busy working on the next season of Cosmos to make time for me. And so, I am going to try and answer these questions on my own based on the information that I have gathered. One of the things I've always appreciated about Kurzgesagt is that even though their videos are incredibly well-researched and deeply accurate, they still manage to make their videos fun, interesting, and engaging. This is something that I think every science communicator strives for, but not everyone achieves. It's really quite an art form, and I think part of Kurzgesagt's success comes down to two factors. The first is that they often approach topics from a fresh perspective, whether that means looking at everyday occurrences that we take for granted or taking a topic we all think we already know and turning it on its head. Take, for instance, their episode on paper clips. On the surface, it seems like such a simple topic that maybe there wouldn't be very much to talk about. But by the end of the video, you learn about physics, history, engineering, and manufacturing, and you discover why paper clips have been called the perfect design. The second factor is their writing, specifically their use of humor. The scripts at Kurzgesagt are really witty, and they're constantly dropping in these really clever one-liners. And just when you think it can't get any better, they'll drop in some kind of quirky sound effect. While researching for this video, I came across a number of articles and interviews with the writers at Kurzgesagt, and there was one thing that kept coming up over and over again. They are all huge nerds. They love what they do, and that passion really comes through in the final product. I think that love of learning really helps make the science communication process fun for them. And when you're having fun, it shows and people pick up on that. The second reason I think Kurzgesagt is so successful is that they make science easy to understand. As I mentioned earlier, they avoid using technical jargon, but perhaps more importantly, they take complex ideas and break them down using analogies and metaphors that are easy to follow. Take, for instance, their video on nuclear fusion. At one point, they describe how the plasma inside a tokamak is squeezed using magnetic fields. They say, imagine trying to squeeze a balloon in a vise. Okay, that analogy is pretty straightforward. But then they go on to explain what happens to the particles inside that balloon as it is being squeezed. They say, if you squeeze hard enough, the particles will bump into each other with sufficient speed and pressure to fuse into helium and release even more energy. You can't really understand nuclear fusion without understanding plasma, and you can't really understand plasma without knowing about particle collisions. By breaking down these concepts using analogies and metaphors that are easy to grasp, they're able to take a really complicated topic and make it understandable to a wide audience. Another element that I think contributes to the show's popularity is the fact that they cover such a wide variety of topics. When someone watches one of their videos, there's a good chance it'll be about something that piques their interest. And then once they start watching, they know they can trust Kurzgesagt to deliver high-quality, well-researched content. So that's how Kurzgesagt manages to be fun. Now let's talk about accuracy. Every episode of Kurzgesagt is thoroughly researched. They conduct dozens of interviews with experts, they comb through academic journals, and they consult with specialists in various fields. In fact, before they'll feature a topic on their show, they usually write a detailed article on their website and send it out to anyone they can find who has expertise in that area. Then they go through the feedback and incorporate any suggestions they receive. They also check all of their facts multiple times throughout the process, and they keep a log of all their sources so that if anyone has any questions, they can look up exactly where they got their information. And all of that brings me to the last reason I think their videos are so successful: production values. The animation at Kurzgesagt is top-notch. It's smooth, it's colorful, and it's engaging. Their voice actors are fantastic. Their sound design is incredible. And overall, their videos are just a pleasure to watch. Just like the rest of the process, their production values reflect the passion that the team at Kurzgesagt has for what they do. It is important to note that the way they make their videos reflects a major shift in how documentaries are produced. Many of the videos on their channel were made using a technique called auto-animation, which means that the animators essentially program themselves out of a job by using software that allows them to animate complex scenes with minimal effort. In fact, at one point, Kurzgesagt employed over 20 animators, but now they have a staff of only 2. In addition to allowing them to produce more episodes with less overhead, auto-animation also gives them the freedom to explore topics that might be difficult or impossible to illustrate using live action. In an interview on the Adam Ragusa show, one of the founders of Kurzgesagt said, "Science is everywhere and it's nowhere. We want to put science back into the news because we believe it's important." I think that quote really sums up what the team at Kurzgesagt is trying to do with their videos. They want to educate the public about science, and they want to do it in a way that's fun, engaging, and easy to understand. I think they're doing a fantastic job. If you liked this video, I think you might also enjoy a video I did a while back about the life and work of Carl Sagan, who I think is one of the best science communicators that ever lived. Alright, let's do a quick recap. First, their videos are fun because they approach topics from fresh perspectives and their scripts are really witty. Second, their videos are easy to understand because they break down complex ideas using analogies and metaphors. And third, their videos are accurate because they're thoroughly researched and fact-checked. That wraps up our look at how one of my favorite science studios produces their award-winning videos. I hope you learned something new today. If you did, please like this video and share it with your friends. And as always, thanks for watching.